I left college, I have to be honest with everybody, and I left college after the first year because, after a whole year of college, I wasn't even rich yet. Like, what the heck's going on? What a waste of time this is. And, I was out there to try and become a millionaire. My parents came to North America with nothing. They worked their buns off. And I got ingrained when I was young that if you don't have money, you die. It's survival. It's not about, you can buy a boat and a plane and have 3 vacation homes. My parents didn't know from any of that. We were, lower middle class, I would say. We weren't starving. My parents were wonderful parents, but they worked, 14 hours a day, 6, 7 days a week, and both of them. And then, so I learned early that money was really, really important. It didn't run my life, but I just knew that was something I had to have. So I left college after the first year, and I went out right away to, start, first of all, getting a job, and that didn't work out, and then started a business. That didn't quite work out. After 10 years, I ended up going through 10 different businesses, none of which worked, and 14 different jobs, which, they didn't work for me because, I recognized after 14 times that I was unemployable. I'm not a person that has an easy time working for other people. I need to take it on myself because, I always found like, what is this guy talking about? Or what's he doing? Or why is he doing it this way? Or I could do better. But of course, when I went into my own business several times and I kept on saying I could do better, I wasn't doing better. So, it seems really odd now to be able to say to people that I was like really dead broke, like destitute. Like literally, there were many, way too many nights that I had to choose between putting $5 of gas or petrol in my car or eating dinner that night. And there were way too many times there was no dinner. And I mean, it sounds so strange right now, but I think that for me, that's why I say it hurts my heart. It hurts my heart when I see people, I recognize people who are trying, and they're not making it, and they just can't put it together. It's kind of like, here's the building, it should be here and here and here and here, and it goes up, and it doesn't do that. It's kind of here, and then this falls, and they're just not sure why, and they're getting information from 1,000 places. Most of the information, in my experience, is like, what? Where are you getting that? And the thing is, though, is you've got to kind of have a system for what actually works that can be put together. Not a bunch. So another way to put it, it's like a puzzle, right? Most puzzles, if you look at the cover of the puzzle, it is a picture that is already put together, right? And all the pieces are then taken apart in the jigsaw puzzle, mixed up, and now you get but in the end, it actually turns into that puzzle. That vision actually happens. It's supposed to happen, and the pieces of the puzzle work together to make it happen. But when most people are out there trying and struggling, they don't have a completed picture. So they have all these pieces of a jigsaw puzzle, but they're pieces that go into 28 different pictures. And it's like, no wonder this doesn't work. It never worked in the first place. It doesn't work together. And so, for me, that's why that's why I'm in this business now. That's why I'm in the training business, is because, once I actually did make it, I guess we'll talk about that. But, I went from, after 10 businesses that didn't work, I finally had a conversation, let's say, with a friend of my father's. He was my dad would have poker night on Mondays, and these 5 guys would come over every Monday, and they were all from Europe and the old country, but one of these guys was really, really, really rich. He owned half the city. He was a building developer, and he had apartment buildings and shopping malls and wealth, and everybody knew who he was. And he was a take no prisoners guy. He was like straight up, this is the way you do it. So I remember I was almost 30 years old. I had to move back with my parents and lived in their basement, the lower level of their home, which was the basement. And I lived there, and I came up one day to get something from the fridge, and I passed him in the hall, and he said, "Harv, your dad says you're a bum." I said, that's great. A lot of encouragement there, Dad, you know. And my dad thought I was a bum. He said, you're a bum. You know, you can't make any money. What's the matter with you? So I said to him, yeah, well, you know, I'm doing my best. And he said, so what's your problem? Why aren't you doing well? I said, I don't know. He goes, that's your problem. I said, what do you mean that's my problem? He says, you don't know. He says, what do you want to do? What do you want to do well in? How do you want to make it? In what arena? And I said, in business. I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to have my own business. I want to do well. He says, so what do you know about business? I said, well, I thought. He says, well, you don't, because obviously that's your result. He says, you know, if you were going to be the best piano player in the world, what would you do? I said, I guess, you know, I'd study with the best piano players. And he goes, exactly. Same with an athlete of any sort, tennis player. He said, so if you want to be a rich person in business, have you ever thought of studying rich business people? And at the time I was like, nah, you know, I'll just make it on my own. I mean, I'll figure it out, and, you know, I'll go to a few seminars and read a few books, and I'll figure it out eventually, right? But it wasn't happening. So because I had been between businesses and I was between jobs, I took the next, believe it or not, 6 months, and all I did was study rich business people. And I went through books and magazines and newspaper articles, and went to the library, and in the end I put together this set of principles. Actually, it was 7 principles, and I added an 8th one after. 7 principles they all seem to have in common. And I put them together, and the next business I opened, I started with a $2,000 credit card loan. I had no money, and I became a millionaire within 2.5 years using the system. And I went like, okay, this puzzle pieces, they go together and they actually form wealth. That's cool, right? So all these people that used to know me when I was, you know, broke, which for over a decade, would say, you know, like look at your car, look at your house, look at what, how did that happen? And I'd go, well, for 10 years and earlier, I used to think and act and do business and do my money like this. And that didn't work. And so I changed all of that around, and I started doing this, and that worked. And I started telling them the difference between this that didn't work and this that did work. And they were all enthralled because they were all doing this. It didn't work, like me, learning from the same people, going to the same seminars, reading the same books, you know, trying it out themselves. It didn't work. And everything I was talking about was kind of new to them. And especially when it was all put together in a 1 through 7 step method, right? And it has to be followed in order. And so they asked me, why don't you teach this stuff? Nobody else is teaching it. And now I was the kind of person that I was afraid in class to raise my hand, because like, what if she calls me and I have to open my mouth, and the teacher would come by and say, who's got the answer to? And I'd throw my pencil on the ground, you know, like go look for it. So I'd be under the desk when she's looking around for me. I hated thinking about speaking in public, and teaching would be the last thing that I would ever envision for myself. The last thing. But everyone kept asking me. And I wasn't teaching, I was just saying, all right, this is what I did. This is how it worked. And people started asking. So I just kept doing that. So ended up I was a big learner, but I didn't like learning in schools, right? That wasn't my thing. And I ended up having a hobby, a really strange hobby, believe it or not, is I was into super learning, this methodology of learning faster and remembering more. And I don't know why. I read this book called Super Learning. And then I started taking these courses on super learning, on what's called accelerated learning technologies, with some of the best people in the world, the best people in the world, the people who taught Tony Robbins and Robert Kiyosaki. And so I put together as a hobby this business course and this accelerated super learning methodology, put it out there, and I guess the rest is history. It actually works. It works in the real world. It works for real people, and it's very easy to understand. And it's a method that's entertaining. You learn faster. You learn more, and that's the beginning of the whole career. So, you know, there's things that actually work.